the Dice Tower is proud to present the modern table gamer, Peter Krause.
Today I'm going to show you the rules and gameplay of a game designed by Kevin Lansing, and it's called Flashpoint Fire Rescue. You and your pals are on duty at the station when all of a sudden the urgent call comes in. We got a house fire with victims trapped inside. Urgency sets in. It's time to grab your gear, grab your axes, and hop in the engine and head out. That's where the game of Flashpoint Fire Rescue starts. From the time you get to the scene, the house is on fire and there's 3 potential victims trapped inside. The object of the game is to rescue at least 7 out of 10 of those possible victims. If you rescue all 10, you are an expert and you get a gold star. It's hard to do. You must rescue at least 7. The potential pitfalls here are you have to rescue them before the building collapses or before those victims die. When you win as a team, and when you lose as a team. Flashpoint Fire Rescue is a game where you need to know your environment. You gotta live it, you gotta love it, you gotta learn it.
Okay, go ahead.
Choosing the side to play, we're going to choose the side with 4 exterior doors. It's a great side for the first couple times you play because it's a little easier because you can get in and out of this building a little quicker and faster without having to chop holes in the walls. Then place your door markers in the interior doors. Next thing we get to do is choose our difficulty. Just like a video game, Flashpoint Fire Rescue has difficulty levels to set. So you get to choose the side of board you play, plus we get to choose between recruit level, veteran level, and heroic level. We're going to play the recruit level because it's easiest and a great introduction. Recruit level starts off with 3 explosions, and then we add 3 hazmat tokens for the experience game. To figure our explosions, the first explosion, we just roll our 8-sided die. I'm going to refer to that as a D8. When I roll this, I roll the number 4, and you can look in the experience game setup and there's a chart. I roll number 4, match it up, it shows I use the coordinates on the grid for the red 3 and the black 6. This is our first location for the explosion. Explosions are fire side up on your smoke and fire token. This is our target square. They radiate up, down, left, and right. If there's a wall in the way, the explosion damages the wall. We use a black damage counter for the damage. So we go up, we go down with a fire token. Left is open, so we can place a fire token here. And to the right, we have a wall, so we place a damage marker. For these initial explosions in the experience game, we also get what's called a hot spot. Those will get explained later. For the second explosion in our recruit level, we roll both of our dice. I have a red 6 and a black 1. Down in this corner is our second explosion. For a third explosion, we simply flip over the black D8. This ensures that we get this explosion gets put in a little different area, and then we roll our red die. So we got coordinates number 2 for the black, black 2, red 1. For the recruit level we're setting up for, we get 3 hazmat tokens. I'm going to roll the dice and find out where I place these. And if I roll in a fire location, I'm going to re-roll again. So take your pile. We're going to take out 2 victims and 1 false alarm. False alarms have nothing on the other side. And we're going to place those back in the box. They don't get used. The rest of these, you have them flipped over, question mark side up. We're shuffling these up. And I pick 3. I'm going to roll the dice and see where they fall. This is where these people are going to hide. Black 2 and a 1 is on fire. If it's on fire, re-roll, otherwise they'd start out deceased. For the recruit level that we're playing, you start out with 6 hot spots. These go in these little yellow dots on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side, depending on which side of the board you're on. When these hot spots are used up, these get used later in the game. When these get used up, you do not add any more hot spots. However, we're playing a 4-player setup here. And the 4-player setup says, I'm going to roll and add 3 additional hot spots on the table. And I just dropped one. Now notice 6 and 3, there's already a hot spot, so I re-roll. There can't be 2 hot spots in the same location. Our group decides where to place their firefighters. Each firefighter gets placed outside of the building on any square the player chooses. Then the group decides where to place the ambulance and the fire engine. And we're going to put this ambulance here, and the group decided the first person to be rescued is probably going to be in that bathroom. And the way people get rescued, again, is by making it to the ambulance. And for a fire engine, we're going to place that over by the dining room. In Flashpoint Fire Rescue, the game moves such as each player starts their turn getting a base of 4 action points. This may change depending on what specialist role they take on. After they take their action points, then they get to take their turn and use those action points in any way they see fit, doing a combination of actions such as moving, chopping walls, extinguishing fire, and carrying victims. After the player's done taking their actions, then they have to advance the fire. This adds a little bit of a chaotic element, a little randomness to the game, and this is what the players are trying to subdue and keep under control. They simply just roll the dice, as we're going to see later in detail, and add some smoke to a space, or possibly an explosion, a shockwave, some flashover. You'll understand in a minute. After the player's done advancing fire, then they check to make sure that there's 3 victims, potential victims, on the board. If there aren't, they're going to roll the dice and add 1 more potential victim to the board. It costs 1 action point to move into an empty space or a space with smoke. It costs 2 action points to move your firefighter into a space with fire. You can't end your turn in a space with fire, otherwise your firefighter's going to overheat. If you end up in a space with a potential victim, you immediately reveal the potential victim. You just flip them over. To carry a victim costs 2 action points per space. However, you can't carry a victim through fire. It costs 2 action points to move hazmat material. Once the hazmat material is outside of the building, the threat of it is eliminated. It costs 1 action point to open or close a door. It costs 2 action points to damage a wall. You just simply add one of these black damage tokens to the wall that you damage. When you have 2 black damage tokens on the wall, you create a hole that your firefighter can pass through. If your firefighter is going to take care of the fire, he has to extinguish the fire. Takes 1 action point to change fire to smoke, and takes another action point to take smoke and eliminate it altogether. If you just want to simply get rid of fire and completely eradicate it, just simply pay 2 action points and get rid of it. For your firefighter to drive the fire engine, costs 2 action points. You can move from one parking spot to the other parking spot. They have to be adjacent. If you wanted to go around the board to the complete opposite side, it would cost 4 action points. As long as your firefighter's in the fire engine, he can radio the ambulance for 2 action points and have the ambulance move from one parking spot to the next. If your firefighter's on the same spot with the ambulance, he can either send the ambulance from one parking spot to the next, or ride along with the ambulance to one spot to the next. Costs 4 action points to fire the deck gun that's on the fire engine. The firefighter has to make sure that there's no firefighters present in this quadrant. There can be the potential victims though. They'd be safe with the water. To fire the deck gun, the firefighter spends 4 action points and rolls a dice. Here he rolls a 7 and a 3. The 7 is out of the range, so you simply just flip the die over, end for end, and now we'll see that it is in the quadrant, and the 3 is in our quadrant as well. So we match up 3 and 4, and this works similar to an explosion. The gun is going to fire into this target space, and then it splashes over into each adjacent space, up, down, left, and right. So by doing so, he kind of struck out here. He's got to the left, no fire, to the right, no fire, up, there's a wall, and down, no fire. Splash over can occur across the quadrant barrier here, across the quadrant border. If the deck gun, if I would have rolled a black 2 and a red 1, I would have hit this space and it would have really paid off. The deck gun splashes over and would eliminate this target square, this square, this square, and this square. Remember, hot spots can never be removed by extinguishing or by the deck gun. Another benefit of being a specialist is you can change your gear at the fire engine for 2 action points. Basically, you're doing a crew change. When you advance the fire, you roll the dice and add a smoke token potentially on the coordinates of your roll. If there's already smoke on the place that you roll, that smoke's going to change to fire. Smoke on top of smoke equals fire. And if that fire is adjacent to any smoke space, it flashes over and turns to fire. If there is fire on the space that you roll, smoke on top of fire equals an explosion. The way explosions work is they explode up, down, left, and right in the 4 adjacent spaces to the target square. If there's a wall in the way or a door in the way, the door would be removed and the wall would be damaged. If an explosion happens and there's already fire adjacent to the target space, either up, down, left, or right, that's going to create a shock wave where the fire passes through the other fire and either leaves a new fire token adjacent to that, damages a wall, blows a door off its hinges, knocks down a firefighter, or kills one of the potential victims. If I roll the dice and it lands on fire, whenever smoke is put on fire, I don't really add the smoke, I just create an explosion. When smoke goes onto fire, it creates an explosion. And an explosion radiates up, down, left, and right. And in this case, we have a wall to the top, so the explosion damages the wall. It goes down and adds fire. Then it goes to the left, and I already have fire to the left, and it passes through that fire like it's called a shock wave, and that shock wave damages this wall. It just kind of basically is going to either damage or it's going to create another fire. And then I go to the right and add another fire token. You're going to see I have smoke. Whenever smoke is adjacent to fire, it flashes over immediately and changes to fire. Fire lands on a space with a potential victim. If there's smoke on it and it changes to fire, that potential victim is going to die. They go into this rectangle with the red cross on it. For the experience version, if you advance fire and your target space has a hotspot on it, hotspot means you get to advance fire again and re-roll. I roll the dice, and my roll contains a red 6 and a black 6. I'm going to put smoke right on the hazmat marker. Anytime we advance fire and it lands on a hazmat marker, it also explodes. We're going to blow up Granny's moonshine right now, son. When hazmat explodes, it explodes just like we saw before, except in this case, I want to show you a couple more things. We go up, we go down. Down is going to damage the wall. We go to the left. If there's a door, the door is going to basically blow off the hinges and we remove that door token. And then to the right, we have a sorry chap who is going to perish here, unless it's a false alarm. Flip it over. Shoo! Thank goodness. It was a false alarm, so I just removed that from the game and I spread fire over there. So that's our explosion. But one thing you add with hazmat is we have to add a hotspot. Granny's moonshine, basically when it exploded, it sunk into the carpet and sunk into the floor, and now it's going to sit there and smolder. So what we do is we go over here. We have our 6 hotspot tokens. We take one of these and then we move back over and replace that hotspot on our target. Remember, when all those hotspots are used up, we don't add any more.
We do have to do cleanup after?
After you advance fire for your turn, the last thing you do on your turn is make sure that there's always going to be 3 persons of interest, or as I like to call them, potential victims, out on the board at any given time. Right now I have 2 potential victims out here. To add another one, I roll the dice, get a 4 and a 2, and I take another token and add it to the board. If there was smoke or fire in the spot that I rolled, I would look at the board and move my person of interest, or as I like to call them, the potential victim. I would move them and follow the arrows that are on the board. As you can see here, these spaces have these small yellow arrows pointing in different directions. Spaces down here have the red arrows. For instance, if I rolled and my spot was 2 with a red 6, it would be on fire. I would take my person of interest or potential victim and just move him according to this red arrow. Just move him up to this space. All the spaces on the board have arrows. The same would hold true if I rolled a spot that already had a potential victim. I would just follow the arrow, moving up just a little bit. If I did roll, let's say I added my person of interest on the space with a firefighter already, I would immediately reveal the token and see that it's either a victim, which this one is, or a false alarm, and that would be the end of my turn. The experienced version of Flashpoint Fire Rescue adds the level of the specialist. Specialists give each player a little bit of an advantage in one certain area. We have a blue paramedic here, which the paramedic has a special ability where she can take and resuscitate one of the victims. She'll try to resuscitate this victim, and then after resuscitation, does not have to carry a victim, but can lead them out by walking them out to the door. And she's going to try to walk them out to the ambulance. So our paramedic starts her turn with 6 action points. She spends 1 to move into a space with smoke, spends another to reveal a potential victim, which we have a dog. To resuscitate costs 1 action point, and then you would use one of these heal tokens and place it underneath the potential victim, which in this case is the dog. And now the paramedic can lead the dog out without having to carry, so it costs 1 action point again to move, and then 1 more to take the dog to the ambulance, which then it is immediately rescued. The hazmat technician is going to come in here and has a plan to get rid of this hazmat since it's surrounded by fire. He's afraid that if he doesn't get to this hazmat soon enough, it's going to explode and leave another hot spot. The hazmat technician's special ability, all they have to do is get on the space with a hazmat token and spend 2 action points, and it's immediately disabled. You can remove this token from the game and it doesn't have to be carried out. So the hazmat technician starts his turn with 4 action points. 1, 2, 3, 4, and moves. Spends 1, spends 2, spends a third to open the door, and actually is going to spend the 4th one to extinguish the fire to smoke. Ends his actions, rolls the dice to advance fire, black 6, red 1, puts us over here. Black 6, red 1, add a smoke token right next to our victim. Still 3 victims out, doesn't have to roll for that. And then we move on to our fire captain. That's our orange player. Fire captain kept 2 action points last turn and takes 4 for the beginning of this turn. First thing, fire captain has a special ability to command another player to move on their own will, and has 2 free movement, and it's going to get the green player outside the building to the ambulance space. That takes his free 2 actions. And now the fire captain is going to move into the space with smoke for 1, move here for 2, reveal this potential victim, and then carry this victim out into the space with smoke, and that takes 4 actions. And he's going to end his action phase and then move on to advance fire. Rolls the dice. It's a black 5, red 1, and that puts a new smoke token right in this location. Still 3 victims on the board. This one is waiting in the ambulance spot, and until the ambulance comes, will not be rescued. And our driver operator gets 4 new action points for the turn, and this is on top of the 2 from the previous turn, and decides to fire the deck gun again. Fires the deck cannon from the fire engine, rolls, and can re-roll either or both of the dice. He gets a 4, black 4, red 5, decides to keep that right here. And that sprays and takes care of this and this. Hot spots can never disappear. Spends 2 there, still has 4 left, and decides he's going to move his fire engine to this quadrant with the yellow player in it right now. Spends 2 action points to move over to this spot. Or ends the action phase of his turn, spends 2, rolls the dice, 1 and 1 to advance fire, which is going to put a smoke token here, which instantly flashes over to fire because of the adjacent fire. Still 3 potential victims on the board, doesn't have to roll for that. And then we move on. Well, thanks for watching. You can find other videos like this at moderntablegamer.com and on our YouTube channel. Remember this, if you're not playing games at least once a week, the planets won't align and we'll never achieve world peace. Take care.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.